Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada, where it is absolutely frigidly cold. And today I am all about the beautiful Nature Walk suite from the Stampin' Up! 2026 January to April mini catalog. Now, this suite was right at the top of my must-have list. There were two things that I absolutely had to have from this catalog. One of them I'll be featuring in a couple weeks. The other is this one. And I mean, there are lots of things I love in the catalog, don't get me wrong, but they were two that, like, no questions asked. As soon as I saw them, went on my into my cart. And this suite was one of them. I love all things nature. I love being outdoors. I love summer and nature hikes and just being still in nature. And this suite really kind of evokes that for me. The colors and the textures, I absolutely love it. So I'm going to show you 3 projects today. We're going to put them together, and then I have a bunch more I'm going to share with you. But honestly, this suite it's just absolutely beautiful. Now, you may have other similar suites. Absolutely, totally fine. You could probably get away with making some of these projects with other products. But I have to tell you, the DSP and the specialty paper are absolutely fantastic. So let me show them all to you. While I am doing that, come on in and say hello. Let me know you're watching, whether you're watching me live or catching the replay. Let me know where you're watching from, and just give me a hello, and I will try to do the same after I'm done showing you the suite. So let me flip to my desk here. Here we go. All right, so this suite, the Nature Walk suite, retails for $115.75 here in Canada, which is actually pretty good as suites go. I know some of our American friends maybe have a little sticker shock, but that's actually pretty reasonable as product suites go. So we have this beautiful bundle at the heart of the suite. It's called Nature Symphony. You had to know I was going to buy a stamp set that had anything to do with music. It doesn't, but with the title Symphony, I had to have it. Well, nature and symphony are two things that I love. So there you go. So we have this beautiful stamp set, some sentiments. I love this too, a great guide sentiment. We don't have enough sentiments and products for masculine cards. So this for me was a great sentiment to see. We have this large branch stamp, a smaller one, and then a little bit of texture. And then the die set cuts out the stamped branches, but then we have a whole bunch of extras. This large textured branch die is fantastic. You're going to see me use that on all 3 projects today. I love this wood texture die cut. You're going to see that on our second project. And then we have this cute little one that does sort of hash marks. You're going to see that on our second project, our first project. And then this itty bitty one, you're going to see that on a couple as well. So I tried to showcase as much of the bundle as possible. So that is the Nature Symphony bundle. And then I'll show you the embellishments in a minute, but let me show you the paper. So we have this specialty paper. It is like a very natural looking paper. If I hold it up really close, you can probably see the texture. It's got this wonderful fibrous texture to it and really natural colors. There's not a lot of dye in this paper. So it's really raw and natural looking. So we have this sort of golden tone, a little bit of a sort of brownish sort of tan, and then this sort of vanilla color. They are not intended to coordinate with Stampin' Up! Colors. I know that is hard for us to imagine because we all love the cross coordination in Stampin' Up!, but this is meant to be different and to kind of stand alone. So you're going to see me using it on 2 out of the 3 projects today. And I hope you fall in love with it as much as I do. This actually comes in 12 by 12 sheets. I didn't have full sheets left because I just finished cutting all my paper shares. And I am down to my last sort of little bits and pieces until my order comes in. So that is the Natural Hues Specialty Paper. And then we have this beautiful DSP. Again, this is 12 by 12, but I've cut this down to 6 by 12. This is, again, all I had left until my order comes. But we have this beautiful sort of Pretty Peacock wash, a little bit of a wood grain sort of hint of it in the background. I love this little sort of spiral. This is just done with a dry brush or a brush and acrylic paint. I love the look of that. We have a distressed crumb cake grid. We've got a little bit of a wash and spatter that looks a little bit like camouflage. And then a similar texture to the green, but in blues. And then this looks like a Monet painting to me. I love it. And then when we flip it over, We have more sort of solid colored images. So we have this Secret Sea grid. We have a Night of Navy wash with a little bit of texture. We've got a Pretty Peacock wash with some great brush stroke texture. We've got this fantastic script. I love this. You're going to see this on 2 of the cards today because I love it. And then we've got this sort of mossy meadow texture, and then a Lost Lagoon grid. This looks like a ledger to me. So just fantastic paper for so many uses, not just with this suite. You're going to see my other favorite product from this this catalog is the Gears and Textures bundle, and I have used this paper a ton with that. So if that you've had your eye on that, check it out with this paper. It works really, really well. And then, of course, we've got embellishments. We have this beautiful, soft Secret Sea open weave bordered ribbon. Very, very soft, easy to tie. You're going to see me using that on our 3rd project. And then we have our faux bronze pentagons, which have these beautiful sort of, it's got a really aged patina to it. And it works with any metallics because the bronze has got a little hint of gold, a little hint of copper, a little hint of the silver. So it works with lots and lots of different colors. So let's see who's joining. Ooh, I'm all cockeyed here. There we go. Let's get that straightened out. Let's see who's made it in, and then we'll get to it. All right, we've got Terry. Hi, Terry. Yes, cold and snowy here too. Hi, Susan. Welcome. Hi, Lauren. Yep, I think the whole Eastern Seaboard is kind of under like a deep freeze right now. Yes, Crystal in Uxbridge. Okay, well, I hope you like what you see. Hi, Jean. Welcome. Hi, Deb. Yeah, it's a beautiful suite. Love it, love it. Hi, Barbara. Welcome. Alexina, welcome. Deborah, hello. Judy, I bet it's colder up there than it is here. I guess we shouldn't complain. Judy's way, way north of me here in Ontario, and it is, I'm sure, much colder than we are experiencing here in Cambridge. All right. Hi, Deborah and Charlie. Welcome. Nancy, welcome from Sarnia. Okay, you're going to get 3 masculine card ideas, Nancy, so I hope you like these. All right. Hi, Louise. It's nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. All right. Let's get to it. I'm going to start with a really quick and easy because my other cards are not so quick and easy. So I thought I would do one that is really straightforward. So this one is just a little bit of DSP, a little bit of that cool Natural Hues specialty paper, and then some die cutting. So let me show you how to put this one together. Like I said, really quick and easy. So we have just a piece of the DSP. This is that sort of Pretty Peacock wash. It's got that ledger pattern on the back. This is a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece. And we are going to start by laying down some linen thread. So I'm going to cut a length, well, double length actually. And we're going to lay this across our panel and just secure it to the backside of our panel with glue dots. This is my don't waste ribbon or twine on the back of paper that nobody sees trick. So we're going to run that across. This may be a little bit higher than I did it on my sample, but that's okay. This is about probably 1.5 inches up from the bottom edge. I think my sample might be, I think I'm pretty close. Let's hold it side by side and see. Nope, pretty good. A little bit higher, but not too much. All right, so with that on, we're going to go ahead and put this onto our card base. So my card, actually, you know what? Let's put our pieces on first, just to make sure. Let's just make sure that that's going to be, yeah, we're good. Okay. Sometimes, you know, when you miscut and this is a little bit longer and you have to trim, and if you've got it already glued down, it's hard to do that. So let's go ahead and put it on our card base. So this is a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of Pecan Pie cardstock. It's scored at 4 1/4 for easy folding. So we're going to glue our DSP onto our card base. And we'll put it this way because we want it to be about 1.75 inches up from the bottom edge. And then here is a piece of that Natural Hues Specialty Paper. This is this sort of golden toned paper. And what I've done, it started out about 2.5 inches wide by 4. And then I took and tore along the long edges to kind of get that rough. And it also exposes some of the fibers. It just gives a lot of really cool texture. Then I ran it through my machine a few times with that cool little crosshatch die, this little guy, and cut a bunch of texture into that piece. Isn't that just really cool texture? I love this. All right, so that's going to go on. But before we do that, we are going to stamp on our label. So this is just one of the Everyday Arches dies. Just to give you an idea, this is 2 1/4 by about 3 1/2. And we are going to stamp You Make Me Smile. This is sentiment from the stamp set, from the Nature's Symphony stamp set. And I'm going to stamp this towards the right end of my arch here. And I'm hoping that this is a juicy ink pad. It's not looking very dark, but we'll see. That's okay. Oh, and I just got ink all over my fingers. You'd think I was new. Goodness me. All right, let's close that up before we have any more messes. And then we're going to come in with this smaller branch stamp and some Pecan Pie ink. And I'm going to stamp it off. And what you're going to find is it gets very close to the tone of that sort of golden natural specialty paper. So I'm going to just ink, stamp off, and you can see that that's pretty darn close. Okay. All right. Hi, Sherry. Welcome. I'm happy that you're able to join me. All right. So we are going to go ahead and glue this down. This is going to get glued flat. We are not popping this up. So I'll just throw some seal on the back here. And I'm going to put this on so it's about a 1/2 inch in from the right end of my card here. I got inky fingers, so I'm hesitant to press down with my right hand. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and add our specialty paper. Is that straight? Yeah, I guess it is. I don't know what it is with me today. Now, just a word of advice, when you are using seal with this specialty paper, because the textures, it's kind of raw paper, you got to take your time with your seal. If you go too fast, you will tear it, like I almost just did. I didn't, but it was close. So I'm just going to lay this on and stick her down. You definitely want to use tape with all those little hash marks cut. If you use liquid glue, it's going to ooze. You're going to have a sticky mess. And then look at this beautiful leaf die cut. It's got gorgeous texture cut into it. The veining is part of the die cut. And it's cut from this pattern. Let me just grab it. This pattern. Okay, so I kind of cut it. I got a little bit of the lighter green and then the Pretty Peacock as well. So we're going to add some dimensionals to the back of this to pop it up. So I use mostly minis with this. You could certainly cut large dimensionals in half, but why make the effort? Minis fit just fine. I am all about quick and easy. So, well, on this card I am anyway. You know I'm not normally about quick and easy. In fact, the next card is anything but quick and easy, but that's okay. We're going to stick this on just like it's kind of growing up across the front of our card here. There we go. And then our last touch is some of these, what are these called? Earthy matte dots. So they come in these great earthy tones. We've got Pecan Pie, a little bit of, I don't know, is that Misty Moonlight? No, it's not. Maybe it looks like boho blue, but I know boho blue isn't a thing anymore. It could be balmy blue. And some cherry cobbler and early espresso. So let's use some of the Pecan Pie. We'll pop these on and call it a day. Really, really quick and easy. Told you this one was easy. Okay, now I added a little bit of twine. Rather than tie a bow, masculine card, I wanted to keep it bow free on this one. So I'm just going to take, if I can get my twine to tuck under. I should have done this before I stuck my label on. I'm going to take a bit of twine. And I'm just going to tie a knot right sort of at the end of my label there. And then just trim it off. So it looks like it's kind of tied around, the twine has been looped around the card, and this is kind of holding it shut, but it isn't. It's just it's a fake job. There we go. Just a little bit of twine. Okay, really, really simple. Yes, Arlene, this paper is fantastic, and I love this little hash mark. Hashtag, man, I've been hanging around the kids too long. All right, that is number 1 done. Let me bring in number 2. So number 1 was quick and easy, remember? Number 2 is going to take us a little bit longer. It is this one here. Lots and lots of layers, lots of texture, lots of distressing. So it looks really, really straightforward from the package. There's not a whole lot to it, but we're gonna make a bit of a mess. So here we go. I'm starting with a 4 by 5.25 piece of that sort of vanilla colored Natural Hues Specialty Paper. And we are going to do some work on this. So I'm going to start by distressing the edges of my paper. Now, a long time ago, we actually had a distressing tool. I still have it, but we don't carry it anymore. So I'm just going to use my scissors. Well, we don't carry scissors either, but I'm hoping everybody has scissors. So what I'm going to do is take the blade of my scissors and I'm going to run it along the edge of this specialty paper. Now, remember, this is really raw, natural paper. So it is going to sort of curl and fray really nicely. Can you see that nice texture that I'm getting? You don't have to work hard to get that look. Now, you're also going to get a lot of fuzz coming off this because we're essentially shaving some of those paper fibers off the paper. So you're going to have a little fuzz. So this is why we're doing this first. And then we're going to wipe off our work surface so we don't end up with fuzz everywhere. And you do want to be a little bit gentle with this. You don't want to scrub too hard or scrape too hard because you can tear this. Remember, it's raw, unfinished paper. So it's going to be a little bit more fragile. All right, let's get rid of all the fluffies. And then we're going to do a little bit of inking. So I'm going to start with my Pecan Pie. And I'm going to come around. Now, I'm going to go all the way around. Even though we're going to cover this, because we're going to distress this DSP, we are going to see that a little bit of the edge of the paper behind it. So I'm going to go all the way around just to make sure that everything looks consistent. So I'm not coming too far on. I'm just kind of hitting that raised edge that we've created with the scissors. Around and around we go. You could use a large blending brush for this. You don't have to use a small one. It just happens that my small one is my sort of medium brown. So I grabbed what worked for the color that I was using. So there we go. Not too difficult. We're going to keep that one out. I will close it just so I don't make a mistake, but we're going to close it or keep it out. And then I'm going to come in with my early espresso. Yes, you're right, Terry. It does kind of look like wild wheat, and it's similar in color. The camera is not quite true. It's a little bit closer to this sort of tan color that is in that, but you're not wrong. All right, now I'm going to come in with a little bit of early espresso, and I really just want to hit that raised edge. I'm not coming far onto the paper at all, like less than I did with the Pecan Pie. And you'll notice I'm not really working in a circular motion. I'm kind of scrubbing back and forth. That is so that I really just hit that raised edge, that distressed edge. I kind of want it to look old, handled, like it's been kind of put through the mill. Okay, there we go. Can you see that? Isn't it amazing? It looks like suddenly an old piece of parchment. It's kind of cool. All right, again, we're going to keep this out. Now we're going to come back with the Pecan Pie, and we're going to do a little bit of stamping with this sort of wood texture. Let me just grab the stamp set. It's easier to see this image right here. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of stamping with this. So I'm going to start, and I'm only coming part way on. I'm not stamping the full image. I'm just going to kind of work my way across. It also is good to flip the stamp so you don't have it looking all the same. We want it to just kind of look like, again, it's been distressed. Okay, I'm going to keep the same ink out, and I'm going to stamp a few of the small leaf images. And again, because this paper has so much texture, you're not going to get a really crisp, distinct image. That's perfect for the look we're going for. Okay. All right. I'm going to close this for now. We're going to come back with our early espresso now. I'm going to do a little bit of stamping again with that same texture stamp. And I'm stamping off because I don't want the early espresso to overpower the Pecan Pie that I put down earlier. So I'm just stamping off, adding some texture. I'll do a little bit more there. And that's really it. Okay. Now, what I love to do to add even more depth and texture is do a little bit of spatter using my Stampin' blend. So this is the from the dark, from the natural tones blends. It's SU 100, so it's from the dark. And I'm going to bring in my bone folder. I'm going to move this out of the way because it's already got enough spatter. And I'm just going to take and tap my marker, the brush tip of my marker, against my bone folder. I'm not actually hitting the tip, I'm hitting the barrel. And you can see that I get all of this awesome spatter. Really quick and easy to do, a little bit messy. Okay, you may need to wipe your bone folder off with a bit of alcohol afterwards to get rid of the ink that's on there, but look at that great texture. Isn't that amazing? Love it. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit of work with our DSP. So this piece is just a 3x4 inch piece of that sort of scripty DSP. I'm going to start by tearing on the diagonal. So I'm going to start, I don't know, about 1.5 inches down, and I just kind of want to tear all the way down on the diagonal like that. Okay, this piece we're not going to throw away, we're going to use it as well. It's going to tuck in behind this way, so we get a little bit of that sort of crumb cake grid. Okay, so first we're going to do is, yeah, we're going to crumple it. I know this really stresses some people out, crumpling their paper. It's beautiful paper. But this just adds so much texture and really adds to that distressed look. So I'm just crumpling it up. When you're crumpling, you can certainly spritz it with if you have a spritzer, it makes it a little bit easier to crumple. You don't want to tear it too much. See how that's got a bit of a tear? I just want to be careful to make sure that that tear doesn't happen, go too much further, because I don't want to rip it too much more. But I want that lovely wrinkled sort of distressed texture. Now it looks like an old document. We're going to make it look even older. So we're going to come in now with our early espresso. And I'm going to work my way across. I'm not going to use a ton. I'm going to start by inking that white edge that was created when we tore our paper. So I'm just going to work my way across here. And then I'm just going to kind of come around the edges of the paper. I'm not really trying to be super careful. You could do this with a sponge as well. Before we had blending brushes, sponges were the thing, and this is how I did this technique. But now that I have a blending brush, my fingers stay a little bit cleaner, marginally. Okay, so there we go. Isn't that a beautiful distressed look? Love it. All right, now we're going to come in. Oh, I've got to keep this out. And we're going to do a little bit of stamping with that sort of wood texture piece. But first, we're going to, just with the ink that's still on the brush, I'm just going to ink the edge of this grid piece that we tore off. And then I'm going to come in with a little bit of that sort of wood texture as well. There we go, just like that. Okay, now we get to put it all together. So I'm going to start by adhering this behind my distress piece. So I'm going to just take and put a little bit of seal very carefully, because I've done a lot of distressing on the back of my larger piece. And then I'm just going to line this piece up with one of the lines on my grid paper. I just want to make sure it's straight. And then I'm going to lay this down and line it up. And that's just going to allow me to see a little bit of that cool texture, and we don't waste anything, right? All right, so this is going to get glued now to our card front. I am going to trim this bit off because we don't really need it. We're not going to see it. We don't need it. Get rid of that. All right, so I'm going to slowly apply some seal. Again, don't want to go too fast. Don't want to tear our paper any more than it's already been torn. And this is going to get adhered flush with that top edge, but I'm not really worried about making it perfect because I kind of want to see some of that distressed edge behind it. I'm also kind of not taking care to smooth out my wrinkles. I want those wrinkles, right? I don't want to smooth them out. So it's got this really cool texture. Okay. All right. Now, what are we doing next? We are going to add our leaves. So I've got one of the branches. Actually, these are both cut from the same sheet. Remember that swirly, here, this pattern? Where is it? Let me show you. It's this one. Okay. So I stamped this one in garden green and then die cut it. And then this one is just the die cut. Okay, from just a different spot. So we get different shades of green. So this one is going to get glued flat. So I'm going to just take and put a little bit of liquid glue on the back. And we're going to stick this down. And I'm going to have it so that the stem is kind of coming off the edge of my card front here. Yeah, it's messy, but messy's fun. I love making a mess when I stamp. All right. And honestly, it's not that messy. My grid paper is messy, but that's okay. My fingers are fine. All right, so let's put some dimensionals now on the back of our die cut leaf here, or branch rather. So we'll add a few of these. And I'm going to put a big one on the large leaf at the top. And then again, we get rid of all our backings. This is the kind of stamping I love. I love layering ink and texture and colors, and makes me happy. All right, so we're just going to layer this one right over top and just kind of press it into place. And then we're going to come in with some early espresso linen thread. Okay, so we have, this was a carryover from the holiday catalog. It comes in a 2-pack of early espresso and old olive. So we're using the early espresso. I'm going to start again with a double thickness. I love using linen thread for natural, sort of nature-inspired cards because it's got that sort of raw texture to it. It works really, really well. It also is great for masculine cards. No frilly ribbon, right? So again, I'm going to take and run it across the front of my card here, or my card front, and add a couple of glue dots to secure this. Trim off the excess, and then I'm also going to trim off that little bit of stem that was hanging off the edge. And then we are going to work on our sentiments. So this is just a little offcut from that piece that we started with. This is 3/4 by 4. And we are going to stamp To a Great Guy in early espresso. Now, we have to stamp a little bit more carefully because this is raw textured paper, right? So I'm going to stamp and I'm going to hold my stamp in place a little bit longer than I typically would. Okay, just to make sure I get a nice clearly stamped image. All right. Now we're going to tear the ends. Again, we want to be consistent, right? So that torn edge texture is kind of a thing on this card. So we're just going to go ahead and tear the ends. And then I'm going to bring back my blending brush, just using the ink that's still on it. I'm not going to add more. And I'm just going to sort of ink the edges of my label here. I'm not really going over the stamped sentiment because I don't want to blur the sentiment, but just adding a little bit of color to that. And then the last thing we're going to do on this is stamp this little branch image again stamped off. And it's just going to kind of come on just behind the word great, because they're a great guy. All right, so now we're going to layer this. I've got this cool little, this again is cut from the Natural Hues Specialty Paper. It's the more golden shade that we used on the last card. I'm going to ink this a little bit with my early espresso brush, again, just with the ink that was left on it. I'm not going to add more. I just want to darken it down a little bit. I don't want it to be quite such a bright gold. Okay. And then our label is going to go on, just offset a little bit with a couple of dimensionals. So 1 and 2. And then we're going to slide this over so it's off to the edge a little bit. And then this is going to go on again, popped up. Now, this is going to overlap my branch that is popped up. So I'm going to put my dimensionals along the bottom edge so that I don't get that double thickness. And then I'm going to put very carefully a little bit of seal along the top edge where it's going to overlap the popped branch. And then that's going to go on just like that. And then we're going to put this on our card base. So our card base is 4¼ by 11 inches, early espresso cardstock. It's scored at 5½. So we'll just crisp that up. Oh, Charlie, thanks so much. I'm glad you're enjoying it, and I'm glad you like this card. I had such fun playing with this card. Every time I sit down to plan my live, I look at the designs I already have with a suite, and I'm like, oh, I could do something different. I want to do something, and I always end up designing more, which is why I end up with so many cards to show you at the end. So I've stuck this down. I'm going to ink that or burnish it well from the back so I don't smudge anything. Okay, we're going to tie a nice loopy bow with our twine. So again, this is really, really curly twine. So I'm going to trim this off, and then I'm just going to come in with my bone folder and just kind of iron it with my thumb. You have to do this. I find the colored linen thread takes a little bit more effort to flatten out, but not too much more. So now that I've got all the curls out of it, I can tie a bow more easily. So we're going to make it nice and big and loopy. And we're going to take a glue dot, press that onto our card right where the label meets the twine. I might make this a little bit smaller. There we go. And press that into place. And then I'll just trim that tail off. And then our last touch is some of our faux bronze pentagons. So we'll just add a couple of these. So 1, 2, and 3. There we go. You like that one? Now on this one, I just added a very vanilla layer, did a little bit of stamping, a little bit of blending. Okay. So much fun to play with these products. I love them. All right. I got a fun fold for you for our last card. And this is a really quick and easy fun fold. I know kind of quick and easy and fun fold generally aren't used in the same sentence very often, but this is truly a pretty easy fun fold. So let me show you. Get these out of the way. And here it is. So it lays flat, and then it's got like a double pop out. So the front pops out, and our sentiment, our focal image pops out. And then there are panels on the back for you to write your sentiment. You could certainly do a pop out sentiment on the back as well, but that adds extra thickness. So I'm going to show you how to do this. It's really, really simple. Nothing super fancy in terms of scoring. Okay. So let me pull out these bits. Here's my mock-up. I always do a mock-up. So this starts with the easiest way to do this is to start with a 5½ by 8½ piece of cardstock. And then with the short side at the top, you're going to score it 3/4, 2 3/4. I said 2/3, 2 3/3. Should be 2 3/4, and then 4 3/4. And then you're going to cut it in half to 4. So basically what I did is I started with it like this. Okay. So 3/4, 2 3/4, 4 3/4. Okay. And then you cut it in half, and you end up with 2 4¼ by 5½ inch panels. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right. So we're going to do some folding. I'm going to start by folding in half along that center score line. So we'll crisp that up. And then I'm going to fold back along those narrow little 3/4 inch score lines. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Okay. So I end up with something that looks like that, like a little tent. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing with the second panel. Okay. So there we go. Easy peasy. All right. So we're going to work on our front panel first. So for this one, let me make sure I get my pieces separated. I have 2 1 3/4 by 4 inch pieces. They're going to go on those large segments. And then 2 1/2 by 4 inch pieces that are going to go on those narrow little segments. Okay. So what I like to do is start with one of the larger panels. I'm going to glue that one on first and then use it to get my other pieces aligned. So we'll get that one centered and hopefully straight. This one's kind of crucial. If you're going to use it as a guide, you want to make sure it's straight. And then we'll go ahead and add our skinny little guys. So this is a 1/2 inch. And I'm paying attention to the grid lines on the DSP as well. That makes it a little easier to get things lined up. So there's our second one, or third one rather. And then our last one is another skinny guy. Pop it on there. Okay, so that's our front panel. Our back panel, we're going to add 2 more skinny panels, same measurement, so 1/2 by 4 inches. So we'll go ahead and we'll glue one on. I'm feeling brave. I'm not going to do a large one first. We'll see what happens. And then I have 2 1 3/4 by 4 inch white panels. Again, this is for us to write our greeting. Now I'm going to add some of these itty bitty little die cuts, this mini branch. I've put some adhesive sheets on the back of these just because they're so teeny tiny. It can be kind of, oh, maybe I don't have adhesive sheets on the back of this. I thought I did. Oh yeah, I do. They just didn't want to come off. So I'm going to put one there and we'll grab another one. Oh, goodness. Where is the end of this? Take your pick to the rescue. Oh, there it goes. This one can go on kind of this way. Oh, there's still a bit of adhesive sheet backing on there. There we go. And then I'm just going to trim the overhang off. And then a little bit of glue. We'll pop these on. And you could certainly, if you wanted to, put DSP on one of these large ones. If you didn't want as much space to write, you could stamp on it. You could do whatever you like. I just left lots of space because I didn't actually do a greeting on this one, a stamped greeting. So I figured I'd probably have to write a little bit more. And that one's a little hot. And bring that down. Okay, so that's our back panel. That one's essentially done. We have more work to do on the front panel. So let's talk about how we're going to create this little pop out piece. So this is 1 1/4 inch by 3 inches. And I've scored it at 1/2 and 1, and then flipped it around 1/2 and 1 again. Or if you prefer to go straight across, 1/2, 1, 2, and 2.5. Okay. All of these measurements are in the video description, so you can find them and recreate to your heart's content. So I'm going to start with my first 1/2 inch fold line. I'm going to fold that inwards. The next one, I'm going to go under. Okay. I'm going to flip it around, do the same thing, in and under. And what I end up with is something that looks like a little frog. You see him? Ribbit, ribbit. Okay. So what I'd like to do is lay this down and just really burnish it well with my bone folder. And then I'm going to take and put glue on both of these little tabs. So a little glue here, a little glue here. I'm going to start by sticking one tab down right up to the fold, but not over it. Okay. And fairly centered on my card front here. I want to make sure I can see that fold. Okay. Once I've got that on, then I'm just going to take and tuck this under and squish my froggy flat. Okay. So there you go. Now we have our little pop out piece. Okay. All right. At this point, we're going to go ahead and marry our front and back panels together before we add our focal image. So this is, again, really easy to do. You want to start on one side. I'm going to put glue. You could use seal or tear and tape on this. Liquid glue for me it's really strong. And when I'm doing fun folds, I like to have a little bit of wiggle time. So I've got this kind of tacked in place. I just want to make sure that my edges are going to line up. So this is all going to be nice and flush. Okay. And then burnish. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. A little bit of glue and stick it down. Okay. So you can see that's essentially how we get that fold. Really easy, eh? Told ya. Okay. Now we're going to decorate. So I have my beautiful die cut leaf. It's cut from some of the Earth and Tone specialty paper. I'm going to trim the 2 branches off. And we're going, oh, let's not put our script upside down. And we're going to glue this down. So because of all of the texture cuts on this, you do not want to use liquid glue, especially with foil. You will have such a sticky, smeary mess. So tape, glue dots, something other than liquid glue. So we've stuck that down. I will trim it in a minute, and then we're going to add our second branch just below. So again, a little bit of seal, and we're going to pop this on just like that. Okay, then I'm going to flip this over and use my die cut edge as a guide to trim off the excess. Okay, so there's one. And then this little guy. And all the way around. There we go. Okay. All right, so that is going to get glued to a, so I should mention this circle. This is the largest circle from the Stylish Shapes dies. It's like 3 inches. And then this is the largest in with this sort of dot dash border in the Spotlight on Nature. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and glue those on. Just like that. Okay, and then we're going to bring in a little bit of our, actually, I think I already cut a length. Yes, I did. I've got about a 10-inch length of our Secret Sea ribbon. And we're going to do our little zigzag trick. So you have to be really careful with where you're putting your seal for this one, because our sentiment is a fussy cut sentiment, and it's not going to take up a lot of real estate. So we just got to make sure that where we put the seal is going to be where the sentiment is going to cover it. Okay, so I'm just doing my little zigzaggy trick here. Makes an N or a Z, depending on what country you're in. And then I'm going to take and cut the ends of my ribbon at the same angle. This needs just a teeny bit more seal right there. Just tack it down. And then I have a sentiment. This is from our product of the month. So our product of the month this month is Fabulous Sayings. Love, love, love this scripty font. These are nice big sentiments, making them really easy to fussy cut. And actually, if you purchase this suite, you'll have enough to get the product of the month for $5. So that's a pretty sweet deal. All right, so we're going to go ahead and add our sentiments. So I've just stamped it in Secret Sea ink on white cardstock. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to trim some minis, half minis, because there's not a lot of real estate for adhesive here. So I'm just going to take and cut some of these guys in half and pop them on. I do need a fair bit of adhesive just because of the ribbon. So we want to make sure that this is going to stay put. And then we'll add some to this one, 2, 1 there. That should be good. All right. So I'm going to start with my birthday. Where did my, there it is. It's stuck to the bottom of my dimensionals. Okay. Oh, goodness. Anybody ever had a stamp get stuck to the bottom of their trimmer and lost it and pulled their hair out looking for a missing stamp? Yep, been there, done that. All right, so there is our birthday. We'll add our happy above it. Just like that. And then to adhere this, we're just going to put some liquid glue on our little pop-out piece. You'll notice it's not perfectly centered. It doesn't matter because we can center our image. We're not going to worry about that pop-out piece. It's really just a mechanism. So we're going to center this, make sure it's straight. There's a dimensional backing that I will get off there in a minute. We'll just give that a sec to set up, and there you go. Isn't that easy? Told you it was an easy fun fold. All right, let's add a couple of these streaked dots and call it a day. These work really nicely with this Earth and Tones specialty paper. So I decided to add a couple of these. There we go. Done and done. You like that one? We've got sentiment fit in the banner punch. It's a very long sentiment, Charlie. It is, do I have it? It's it's a long wise. It will probably fit in some of the longer dies. I haven't tried, but yes, you could absolutely, you don't have to fussy cut it. Okay, does that make you feel better? I know fussy cutting is your thing. Okay, let me bring in all 3 projects and then show you a few more that I put together. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then here is one that I posted yesterday. Nice earthy. Oh, thanks, Deb. It's nice to use different embellishments that you have in your stash. Here's a really quick and easy thank you card. A little bit of collage stamping in the background. Here is that fun, whatever you want to call it, fold that I demonstrated last week. It's everywhere. Again, using some of the Secret Sea ribbon and just lots of that awesome specialty paper. Here is one that we put together during my launch party. Lots and lots of ink blending on that one. And then here's another one, a little bit of ink blending, a little bit of collage stamping. And then here, totally different color palette. This is a swap that I received in Pool Party. Totally different look, but it makes it a much more feminine look with the bling. So there you go. You like those? All right. Okay, let's just see if there's any questions. Louise, thank you. I'm glad you like it. It is really easy. It really is. Hi, Catherine. Welcome. Yeah, it is pretty darn chilly here. We're going to have minus 25 wind chills overnight tonight. So it's not going to be a nice night. All right. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody. I'm glad you like them. Okay. I don't see any questions. All right. I'm going to flip back to me and say a warm goodbye on this freezing cold night. I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.